Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Our society interprets age. They just say,
Mhm.
okay, this is at 65, you're going to get retirement or whatever. And I think I learned that really what other people think of me is not always accurate or my business. And certainly when it comes to age, I
Mhm.
feel more myself than I have ever felt at 62. I'm so
Wow.
happy. And I wasn't. When I was younger, it was always a battle. I wasn't thin enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. And now I'm just, I'm loving every day. I'm in the
Yeah.
moment.
You are listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host. Today, I have a wonderful guest with me. Her name is Lisa Cheek. Welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. It's super fun being here.
You just seem like a super fun person. After reading your book, I know you are, so that's very cool. So tell us where in the world you are and what you do.
I live in Los Angeles. I've been here for almost 35 years. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
And I was a film editor for 25 years.
Mhm.
And now I'm a writer.
Wonderful. We're going to get into all that. Before we get into your story, though, why don't you share with us a time in your life when you felt courageous or showed courage?
Ooh, it's funny because I was going to say the next book I'm writing on is about getting married. And I think that's the most courageous thing.
That's pretty courageous.
Yeah, I was trying to like quickly connect something with this particular book, but I'm like, no, the most courageous thing I think I did was getting married.
Yeah. As someone who's been married for almost 37 years now, there's levels of courage.
What an inspiration. I love
Yeah.
hearing that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. That's super cool.
Yeah. So we're talking about you today, though. You have a book, Sit Cinderella Sit, it's called. And is that was your first book?
This is my first book. It is.
Yeah.
It's about 4 months of my life when I'm told I'm too old to edit
Yeah.
TV commercials. So I take a job editing what is believed to be the original telling of the Cinderella story.
Uh-huh.
But it's in Mandarin, a language I don't speak. And I live with the camera crew, 14 men who don't speak a word of English.
Yeah.
We travel along the Tibetan border where no one speaks English. And then I rescue two dogs while
I
I'm there.
know. I love it. You have all the things that I'm so excited about. So let's go back a little ways. Let's talk about your career as an editor. How did you get into that? Why did you want to get into that?
It's funny, I didn't go into knowing what I wanted to do. I had no idea, but I knew I wanted to be in entertainment, and I was living in the South at the time. And there are not many jobs, or at least back then there weren't many jobs to get into entertainment. And so I wound up running camera for news for a while, and I hated that. And then I got offered a job. There was a new TV station that was signing on, and I went over and because I was always interested in the two guys. There were only two editors that worked at that TV station, and I was always interested in their job. And I kept saying, I think I can do that. That looks really fun.
Mhm.
And they kept saying, no, 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 you don't want to do this. And so when the new TV station was getting ready to start up, I just marched over there and I said, I'd really like to edit. And he said, do you know how? And I said, no. And he said, fine, we'll teach you.
Oh,
So I
nice.
wound up watching 3 movies a day.
Ah.
And I would go and take out the swear words and the nudity and put in the commercial breaks. So that was my film education, was watching movies instead of going to film school. I watched films.
Oh, interesting.
And then the same people who signed on that TV station went to Charlotte, and we signed on a new TV station there. So it was all the same movie packages, and I wound up writing all the promos for the movies that I had watched. I wound up working in
Oh,
promotion for 3 years, which is how I got into 30-second format, which is what finally led to, doing commercials in LA.
Okay. And I do have a little bit of a background in television, like in college and stuff. So, and then with this podcast, you have to try and get a lot of information into a short amount of time when you're editing things, right?
Well, yes, and especially with commercials. And that's what I loved most about commercials was that I had 30 seconds to get your attention, 30 seconds
Yeah.
to stick out when most people got up and went to the bathroom or put on mute. I was busy trying to get your attention by, making something funny or, flashy or whatever I could do.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's a talent. Tell us about how you got to a point where you were aged out of this field. So tell us
So
about
yeah,
that.
commercials, and I was told when I first entered, I was told by this cameraman, he said, I wanted to get into commercials when I was 35, and they told me then I was too old, that I just needed to stick with features. And I remember thinking, well, that's funny. And then when I took this last job, they were like, Lisa, at some point you need to start thinking about another career. And I loved editing commercials. It was so fun.
Mhm.
And then eventually I was just told that they want to work with really young people. They want young, hip editors in there. So that's what happened to me. And
Wow.
I had just gotten a dog who you will meet named Ron Howard.
Yes.
So I had somebody I had to feed along with myself. So I needed a job. And when this actually came through with the director, when he called, I was game. I thought this is going to be quite an adventure. I was super excited. I was really sad about having to leave Ron Howard behind.
Yeah.
But I knew it would be an adventure. I had no idea what kind of adventure it would be. And I had no idea that I would write a book about it. Like,
Oh
absolutely
my
none.
gosh. Listeners, you need this book. It is amazing. Can we just go back for just 1 second and talk about the aging out thing? Because that floors me. I mean, I get it. Like, we want younger, we want, supposedly hipper, whatever. But people our age have so much more experience and wisdom, and we can impart that to other people. I think they missed the boat there. I'm just
Well,
saying.
that was what was, I guess, one of the big lessons, that I learned in China was because they revere their old people, and old people there are
Ah,
like climbing up the side of a mountain with a bag of rice on their back or with a
yes.
donkey and, a cement block. And, they were 30, 40 years older than me when I went. And it was so
Wow.
amazing to see. And what I really learned, well, I learned many things there, but regarding age, it's that, you know, our society interprets age. They just say,
Mhm.
okay, this is at 65, you're going to get retirement or whatever. And I think I learned that really what other people think of me is not always accurate or my business. And certainly when it comes to age, I
Mhm.
feel more myself than I have ever felt at 62. I'm so
Wow.
happy. And I wasn't. When I was younger, it was always a battle. I wasn't thin enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't, and now I'm just, I'm loving every day. I'm in the
Yeah.
moment. I'm not worrying about what's going to happen. It's like, I also learned, I think that was another big lesson was that, things always work out. They just
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's painful to get there, but they always work out.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And yeah, I don't want to give away the whole book, but there's places in there where towards the end, where you had to come back home and they wanted you to pay how many yen to get home and you were stuck. But it worked out.
But
Or
it's
did
all
it?
my fault. It was definitely all my fault because I thought I thought my
Yeah.
visa was good for much longer than it was.
The guy kept telling you, yes, it is. So yeah, but I probably would have been in that same spot. But so you were offered this opportunity to go to China of all places. Had you traveled before?
Oh
Any?
yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. I was, in fact, I traveled a lot over Europe. I'd been to Singapore. I'd been to Turkey. I'd been to a lot of places. My mother moved to London when I was 9.
Mm,
So I spent a lot of time traveling to see her wherever she
sure.
was. And so, but I had no idea that I would be in tiny villages with 100 people who didn't speak a word of English. I
Yeah.
just did not, I don't know what I thought, even though once I got there, the director told me, we're going to be in this really cool little village.
Yeah.
And then the entire film crew went down by the Yangtze River to shoot. So I was again left alone. But luckily, towards the end, I had my assistant with me, and
Yeah.
he helped me get through the day.
Yeah, I love that relationship too. He really did help you. And I felt for you as you were leaving too, because you had 6 weeks to get ready and you had to leave your dog. I am a huge dog lover, as everyone who listens to this podcast knows. I almost cried for you because you had to leave Ron Howard behind. And being left alone in a foreign country too. My husband and I just came back from a wonderful European Rhine River cruise and it was amazing. And I had him with me, but and a lot of other people. But I can't imagine going to a foreign country by yourself, basically.
Yeah, it took me 4 days to get to the first location. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Four
Wow.
days. And I was like,
Yeah.
that is just, that's how far in we were.
Yeah.
Far as, in China and in the mountains and like where we were. It was crazy.
Yeah. Were there times when you just wanted to forget it, I'm going home?
I did at one point when, I was left alone. My assistant was needed on the set, it was crazy. I mean, the director didn't speak Mandarin. He didn't speak it at
Oh
all.
no.
He had an assistant too, and yet he had an entire Chinese crew. So
Uh,
he was, working so hard. And I kept thinking I'd, at least see him once a week or so, but
yeah.
I didn't see him at all. He was so in it. Because, when you're there shooting, you got to do, which is why he brought me along, was he needed to be able to see that he got all of his shots. So I would loosely put together scenes every day.
Hmm.
So because it's not like we could go back and do a pickup, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
could go back to the sound stage and do like it wasn't like that at all because we were so far out and to get this crew there. And so we had to make sure we got what we needed when we were there.
Yeah. It was interesting to me too, as someone who edits my podcast, you were editing a film in a language you didn't speak or understand. How in the world did you do that?
Well, so that's what happened, and I'm sorry I didn't finish answering your other question regarding like the first week I was left alone. My assistant wound up going to the set every day, and so I they wound up shooting the heaviest dialogue scene in the entire movie. And I
Oh,
was left on my own. I had no idea what anyone was saying and if they were saying it correctly. And that's when I really thought, oh my God, I was jet lagged. I thought, what did I get myself into?
mhm.
This is crazy to think I can edit something in Mandarin, a 90-minute film in Mandarin. I just like, this is crazy. And I cried and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I did.
You did.
I hung in there and I, expressed that I needed my assistant back just for an hour or two every day to help me understand what this scene was
Yeah.
and were they saying what I needed them to say.
Yeah.
And then, once we got into the swing of things, it was definitely an experience, an adventure.
Yeah, for sure, adventure. Let's talk about how you found Cinderella and who is Cinderella? Not
So
not the movie Cinderella.
So Cinderella, we were leaving our first location, and during my drama of realizing that I, didn't speak Mandarin, I had to cut this scene, and there was no one around. I ran
Oh,
outside, and I wanted to go for a walk, and I saw this little dog tied to a fence. This woman had a little cart, and she was out there selling her wares, and she had this little dog tied to a fence, and so I ran over and I thought, the one thing I do is speak dog. I love my dog. I miss Ron Howard, and I can go over there and hang out with the dog.
sure.
And so I did, and I made friends with the dog, and I got comfort, great comfort there from this little dog. And when we had to leave to go to the next location, I started to cry, and I was like, I can't leave this little dog. It just makes me so sad.
Yeah.
So, the director said, bring her along. So we went and negotiated and provided a dowry for her. And then I called her Cinderella because she was super sweet. And we were going to the ball, our next place that we were going to. We were shooting the ball. So, yes.
Yeah. I love that. I really do. And then you found another little one. Someone dropped a little puppy off at your door at some point as
Yes.
well.
It's interesting the assumptions people make about you, right? Well, I was the only
Yeah.
blonde. I was blonde there at the time. I did have Cinderella on a leash, which was something you didn't see in these tiny villages.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, they just assumed I was the dog lady, and somebody had a tiny puppy that was so tiny, and she got left on my doorstep. And
Yeah.
so I had 2 weeks left before I had to leave to find them both homes
Oh my gosh.
because I
What?
was actually going back. What I didn't say was I was gone for 6 months. We
Mhm.
went back to Hong Kong to edit for 3 months after we finished shooting.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't take the dogs with me.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask, was there any thought of bringing them with you? But yeah, you
Of
couldn't.
course, I would have
Yeah.
loved to have, but I knew I was spending 3 months in Hong Kong and
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. It was too
Yeah.
complicated, and it was complicated enough for people to get the dogs around China.
Yeah, I bet. I
Mhm.
bet. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, like I said, I don't want to give away the whole book or anything, but it's an amazing story. What made you decide that you should write a book about it? Hi, everyone. Kim here. I just wanted to remind you that I have a brand new product on my online shop at midlifewithcourage.com. They are beautiful affirmation cards just for you. These are a product that I created. I'm very proud of them. They're called your Daily Dose of Courage. Each day you take a card and you can go in order. They are numbered 1 through 31 for each day of the month, or you can just take them out at random. Use them just to give yourself a little positive message. Maybe you want to use them as a journaling prompt. You can even use them in the evenings before you go to bed as a way of just having a little positive, courageous message to read before you go to sleep at night. So go to midlifewithcourage.com and go on the online shop. The link is right there on the first page and grab your copy of your Daily Dose of Courage affirmation cards.
I lost my father in 2018, and I had a girlfriend, actually my hairdresser, and she said that she knew this woman who was a Chandler and that she'd had really a great experience talking to people.
Oh,
My
interesting.
father, I know, right? So I said, I think I want to go talk to my dad. I want to find out if he's like wants to talk to me. So I went to see this Chandler, and my father read a book a day. And so she tells me that my dad said heaven had the best library. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
I think this is my dad. This sounds like it could totally be him because we used to go to the library together, right?
Yeah.
So while I was there, she said, you've been on this adventure. And I think you need to write because I was working on another story about a woman aging out of something, but it wasn't, it was a novel. And so I went back and I started writing this. And I originally wrote this as a novel, and then it didn't feel as special versus being a memoir. It was like, no, this magic really happened to me. And it was like super cool. Much better to own it.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how you added your childhood stories and your experiences with your parents in there too.
Well, Cinderella was such a big story for me as a kid, and I
Mhm.
had I had Cinderella on a record that I used to listen to all the time with the book that came with the album,
I
and
had that same one.
there you
Yes.
go. So I
Yes.
listened to it over and over again, and then of course there was the movie,
Hmm.
and I think as a kid I was so unhappy and lonely, and like the prince came and rescued her. I kept waiting for someone to rescue me as a kid, and it never really happened, and ultimately we know that we have to rescue ourselves. So
Hmm.
that took me a little while to understand that.
Yeah.
Like I said, at 62 now, I'm quite comfortable with knowing that.
Yes. And I will tell you, you do not look like you're 62. I'm just saying
Thank
that. So
you.
you look wonderful.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Yeah. So I just love that how that kind of it made that your story more meaningful to me, I think, to kind of know where you were coming from and all these things that you've been learning. Yeah. So you said you're going to be writing another book, or
I
you're
am.
starting one. Tell us if you want to share with us about that. That would be
I'll
awesome.
share a little bit about it. It's about one night of my life. And yeah. That's about what I'm going to share.
That's what you're going to share. Okay.
Because I got
That's
to pull it off, and I'm not really sure that I can, but that's what I'm working on.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. So, how long did it take you to actually write the book after you had this grand adventure?
Not long. I mean, I think it was 3 years maybe. And then the first person I shared it with said, I want to publish it. And so she's a super cool woman, really, really neat. And I was excited. I didn't spend any time, sending it around. And I said, let's go. And then it took us 2 years to actually go from when she said she wanted to publish it. My original pub date was in August of 2024, and
Okay.
it didn't come out until January 2025, which is great because it gave me a lot of time. Timing is another thing. It's so we, you know, when we're ready, things begin to happen, just like going on that trip. And it gave me more time to sort of settle into, oh, I'm an author now. I have a book
Did
coming out.
did you kind of have to get your mindset on that or
Yeah.
kind of change how you view
Yeah.
yourself a little bit?
Because even though I'd been writing for 20 years, it happened so quickly when it happened. When it was,
Yeah.
again, it was like, this is what's supposed to happen now. And I just was like, whoa. So
Yeah.
I'm leaning into knowing that, things are going to happen when they're supposed to happen and not instant microwave coffee, as Stephen Wright used to call it, where we have everything, we go back in time. Like it's crazy. We want everything now. It's like,
Yeah.
and I think also, half of any great adventure or anything that you're doing is the anticipation of it, right?
Yes.
That's half of it. When you're going on a trip somewhere, you're like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun, right? Or I got
Yeah.
a book coming out and I have no idea what that looks like, but it's exciting, right?
Right. Yeah. I mentioned this trip that we had just taken. I have a little newsletter and I shared before we left. I'm trying to enjoy the time that we're getting ready for it because that's a fun part of it too. And not just, oh, we got to get there. No, enjoy researching where you're going and who's going to do, get the euros or whatever it has to be. It's so important to enjoy that anticipation that time too.
It is. I love like looking forward to things. I think
Yeah.
it's just, it's like, oh, great, this is going to happen. I wonder what it's going to be like. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, that's what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I
What
know.
it's like to
Yeah.
have coffee in Paris somewhere, right? Or that's what it's
Yes.
like to, right? It's
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah. It's wonderful. And then when you're done, it's like, okay, what's next? Let's go.
right? Well, it's our next adventure because it's so fun looking forward to something.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that is that sense of anticipation, excitement has it's maybe part of this time of our life?
I think that's very true to a certain extent because now I'm on the backside.
Huh?
So of where my life can be. I mean, I who knows, I could live another 30, 40 years, whatever,
Sure.
which is exciting to me because I think, oh, I have so many things I want to do now.
Yeah.
But also, who knows if I'm going to be gifted that time.
Yeah.
So it's about really being present today, enjoying today, and what has happened, right? It's that,
You're
oh,
right.
I have had this accomplishment. I have had this adventure. I have had all of this and enjoy that while working on whatever's next.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, celebrating what you're doing, what you've done, and what's happening right now, I think is important.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, what will be your next adventure, do you think?
Wow.
Or what would you like to have be your next adventure?
Well, I will say just having a book out is like it's such a great adventure because every day I meet people talk to me about what resonated with them and
Mhm.
that is a connection on a level I've never had before with people. And
Mhm.
like you said, to even talk about my childhood, it's not like something I would talk about to people. And
Right.
so the fact that I got to share that and that it resonated with you somehow, or you felt like it helped tell the story, it's just a connection in a way I've never experienced before with another human being.
Mhm.
And I am really finding that to be a great adventure.
Yeah. I was going to say that's an adventure itself.
It is just because I wake up today, I had no idea what we were going to talk about or,
Yeah.
how this conversation was going to go or but I was looking forward to it because I
Yeah.
figured I'd really, this is great. I get to connect with you.
Yeah, same here. Why don't you tell us where we can find the book?
Well, my book is available at your favorite bookstore. It's through Simon and Schuster distribution, so you can order it. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, it's, anywhere your favorite books are.
Yeah. I always tell people if they have like a local bookstore they like to go to them and have them order it. They will usually get it for you very
I
quickly.
always
So,
lead with that because for me, I have a couple of local bookstores here in LA that provide community. Again, there's a
mm,
connection when you walk into a bookstore that you're never going to get when you order it online. And
right.
even if I ask for a book, like I went into one of the stores at Barnes and Noble the other day, and she said, "May I help you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so. I don't think you have my book." And the next thing I knew, she ordered two copies, and it was like, isn't that wonderful? Like I had a
Oh my
conversation with her
gosh.
that in the past I would not have said. I would have just been bummed that she didn't carry my book. And when she
Uh,
said, "Can I help you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to know. Why aren't you carrying my book?"
isn't that funny? Because that's something, I'm sure they automatically say it and we automatically just go, no, I'm fine. Or, but you were like, yeah, yeah, you can help me.
You can.
You
And that's the
actually
thing I'm
can.
learning. I thought, I'm going to ask, what's it going to hurt? They can just say, "No, I don't want to carry your book." And she was like, "This looks fabulous." And she promptly ordered two copies, which was great because the next day I was at my eyeglass place and somebody wanted to buy a copy of my book. I said, "It's right across the street."
Amazing. Amazing. See, things just happen when they're supposed to happen.
And you meet like-minded people at a bookstore, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
they're looking for an adventure in a book too.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Lisa, I feel like we could just keep talking for days, but obviously we can't. So before we say goodbye, is there any one last little nugget of advice or information you want to share with our listeners?
I would say that there are two really big things that I learned in my book. And one is that kindness is a universal language and that your life is better with a dog in it. It's always better with a dog in it.
Yes, it is. Even two dogs. Two dogs is even better.
Yes, it is. You can never have too many dogs.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Lisa, for joining me today. I really enjoyed this conversation and I hope that we can talk again soon.
Thank you, Kim. I had so much fun.
All right. Thank you. You've been listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review. It really does matter. Or even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.